Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvin speaking. We're going to get into a disappearance of Jason Jolkowski. So Jason, who was born June the 24th, 1981, disappeared in June the 13th, 2001, is an American man from Omaha, Nebraska, who went missing while walking his former high school to meet a co-worker for a ride to work. In the aftermath of his disappearance, Jolkowski's parents successfully campaigned for Jason's Law, a statewide database, should I say, to missing people in Nebraska. As of 2005, Jolkowski's whereabouts remain unknown. So this is the background to the case, people. So Jason was born on June the 24th, 1921 in Grand Island, Nebraska. At the time he disappeared, Jolkowski was living with his parents on 48th on Pinckney Street in the Benson neighborhood of Omaha. He was a part-time student in the radio broadcasting program at Lower Western Community College in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and worked as a local Fazali's restaurant. It was reported that he planned to eventually become a radio DJ for Key WR. Jolkowski's mother described him as shy, a quiet boy who only had a small handful of friends. So the disappearance, this is quite important. On Wednesday, June the 13th, 2001, Jolkowski was called into the work early due to his car being at a repair shop. He initially planned to walk to his job, which was located over 4 miles away, 6.4 kilometers away, but eventually made arrangements for co-workers to give him a ride since Jolkowski had trouble giving directions. He arranged for them to meet at Benson High School, which he and his co-worker had previously attended. The school was 8 blocks, half a mile away from his home. At 10:45 a.m., Jolkowski was last seen by a neighbour who saw him help his young brother pull trash cans from the curb back to the house. Less than an hour later, between 11:50 and 11:30 a.m., his co-worker called his house, stating that he had failed to turn up at Benton High for the ride to work. Jolkowski has not been seen or heard from since then. Shortly after his disappearance, the school security cameras were checked, but none of them showed Jolkowski arriving at the school. A police officer investigating his disappearance deemed it the most baffling case he had seen in 30 years. As of 2024, the Omaha Police Department continued to investigate the case, but he was never found, people. So we're going to get into, so there's Jason there, so sad, disappeared June the 13th, 2001, age 19, people. So this is an article from Reddit. It has now been 23 years since Jason Jolkowski disappeared. What happened to him? And this is by Unresolved Mysteries. Interesting stuff. I know this is a prominent case on subreddit, so it's allowed to provide a source to provide the majority of the information and details. For those unfamiliar with the case, Jason Jolkowski was a 19-year-old man who disappeared on the morning of June the 13th, 2001, in his hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. That day, Jolkowski had been called into work early due to the fact that his car was in a shop for repairs. He made arrangements to be picked up by a co-worker at Benson High School, where Jolkowski had graduated from. On the way out the door of his family residence, he decided to help his younger brother take trash cans into the garage. A neighbour saw him carry the cans into the garage at his house in the area of 48th of Bedford Street. This was at 10:45 a.m. approximately in the morning. After that, no one ever saw or heard from Jason Jolkowski again. Unsurprisingly, there are an abundance of theories that pertain to Jason's disappearance, which include, but are certainly not limited to, the following: killed in a hit and run and was disposed of, accidental death as a result of walking through a construction area, abducted and killed while en route to his destination, taken advantage of by a neighbour who feigned needing help. Wow. Those are just 4 theories. There are many more out there, but I listed the one that were most common based on what I've seen. Unfortunately, we know as much today as we did about the fate of Mr. Jolkowski. I cannot begin to imagine the agony and pain his family had to endure after all these years. They deserve closure and peace. I can only hope that continuing to promote awareness of this case can contribute the outcome. Wow. Wow, that's really, really deep. I just want to go into the chat just to see what people are saying, because like I said, I'm going back over the cases on Streamline Investigations, so people have an insight into what's going on sometimes in this world. My money, this is Cougar Writer 74. My money is on one of the last two theories listed above. The thing that is so stark about this case is that there's literally nothing to go on in terms of clues. I have lived in Omaha since shortly before Jason vanished, moved here in March 2001, and this case has baffled the city. And since then, there were no trace of anything Jason owned, keys, wallet, clothing, etc., ever found anywhere in the neighbourhood. And there hasn't been so much as a single hair, fingernail, drop of blood, quite literally nothing ever found that can be traced to him. It's also quite amazing that he disappeared in the middle of a semi-urban neighbourhood which features regular pedestrians and car traffic, and that it happened so quickly or covertly. Nobody heard or saw anything. This wasn't some lonely dark country road at 3 a.m. in the rainstorm like the Asher degree case. This was right before lunchtime on a bright, sunny, near summer's day, only blocks from some of the busiest and main streets, thoroughfares in Omaha. It's also quite telling that there were no other disappearance like Jason's either before his, and there have been none since. Bizarre. Very good point there made by Cougar Writer 74. Prime Vector 19 says, right, it baffles me too. There is much evidence to support the idea that he vanished into thin air, as it's to supplant the idea he was abducted or kidnapped. Fade into the M1 first says, yes, I think he got into the wrong car, plain and simple. I'm basing that off his friendly, trusting nature he reportedly had. Where he was heading, the fact there were numerous sex offenders living in the area at the time, disappearing smack dab in a dense suburban area. Lack of other evidence or clues and little gut feelings. Some people have mentioned in the past that he was a bigger kid, middle of the day, etc. But if someone had a weapon, or if there were more than one person in the car, he could have been subdued or intimidated, scared. Now that's not to say he didn't know the person in the car, but as of now, I'm still leaning towards non-familiar abduction, saying it definitely a big mystery. That's an interesting point there. Saborovich says, this is a true mystery. It makes me think of the case of a young man who worked in a grocery store. He somehow fell behind a refrigerator unit and got stuck. Perhaps some constructions happening on his route that morning. I don't know, but something would have hurt to me. If you're hurt or you're trapped, you would scream for help. I wouldn't go with that, to be honest. Cougar Writer 74 says, yep. And that happened right across the river in Council Bluffs Lower. I drive past that store from time to time and think about that case too. So spooky. I always think about this case. It was a girl and she called his house and the restaurant looking for him. About 6 months ago, I went way down the rabbit's hole on this case, and I have come to the conclusion that he died in a freak accident and his body has not been and may never be found. No foul play. But what happened to the body though? If someone hit him in a freak accident, surely they would bury him or try and get rid of the evidence. But it's crazy how he's never been found. What do you think the accident may have been? Not being fictitious. I'm genuinely curious. I always think about this case. So I'm going to avoid the rabbit hole and take your word for it and close the case. In my mind, this one is too puzzling to keep pondering. That's what I think too. It's the only thing that makes sense. It's not impossible. I just feel the complete opposite way. I know it had to be foul play. Yeah, definitely, because his body was never found. Info middleman saying, I'm in the foul play camp. And by foul play, I mean someone offered him a ride. No one else noticed, and it was all downhill from there. Wow. Very, very strange at the end of the day. But I always find that people who are not found is generally to do with foul play, and it happened very, very quickly. I mean, he was a big lad and 19 years of age at the end of the day. You don't know whether he was hit over the head quickly, put into a car or the boot of a car and just taken away. It's really, really strange, this case. Let me know what you think, people, because I try to get a little bit of updates on what people are actually thinking out there. And there's not too much to go on the Jason, although it's still a bit of an open book. Let's just hope his parents do get answers. Don't forget to subscribe to Streamline Investigations and follow the channel. Thank you very much indeed, people.